Hello, it's the Sean Show, episode 27. Oof, nice. Thanksgiving Day today, at least in the US. Few games to go over. I don't have a whole lot of time, so let's just get straight to the agenda today. The Sean Show, it's the greatest show. The Sean Show, it's the greatest show. Okay, where are we? It's my agenda. Boom. We got the show plug. I'm going to talk about some updates really quickly that are coming soon. So let's get to it. This is the Sean Show, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. 4 days a week. If you're in the US, just bring those days forward by one. So Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Friday. Today it is it's a Friday for me, so that means Thursday night football. Thanksgiving football has finished. We'll go over a quick review of that, and as you can see in the agenda as well, we're gonna have a quick chat about the Vikings signing Daniel Jones and how we feel about that. Show updates soon. We'll be attempting to bring the show to a few more platforms. I'm still getting that set up. It was supposed to be today, but we'll hold it off till next week until I've got everything all down and gravy, and the show should be a little more interesting to watch. A little more happening on the screen, maybe. And then we got a couple of other projects that we're thinking about, but let's move on. Get rid of that. Alright, so the Vikings are going to sign the quarterback Daniel Jones. Well, that's what's going on in the news, at least. Adam Schefter has reported that. They said, I think it was maybe Wednesday they were going to do it. I don't think it's been done yet, but let's have a quick look. I want to have a quick look at Daniel Jones' stats here. So this year, pretty shitty year, to be honest. 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Overall quarterback rating of 46.4. That's pretty terrible right there. Did rush for 2 touchdowns. Now, one good thing about Daniel Jones this season after watching the Giants is that the man can run, and he will run hard. He'll run through tackles. He won't just slide. He'll take the contact, and he'll give the contact pretty hard. So that can spark the team up. It's just I don't know if it was decision making or just shitty throws. The offense just did not seem to work with him there. Hasn't worked with DeVito either. I've been a kind of a big sympathizer of the Giants and saying that all they really need is a quarterback, an offensive coordinator, and a head coach who are all in sync, but right now they're missing those 3 key pieces. The team drafts well. They never draft a bust, but they just can't get shit going. But so Daniel Jones, that was a bad season. Let's have a look at last season. It was probably even worse. 2 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, only rushed for 1 tutty. He didn't play in all the games. He did get injured. He did get the big paycheck in the off season, so you'd assume his play would go up. They made it to the postseason in 2022. Looks like he went a little better. 15 touchdowns to the 5 interceptions. It's still not amazing. And 7 rushing touchdowns. So definitely not the stats you want to see out of your starting quarterback. Would really good to see him play a full season. But what are you going to do? So is going to the Giants a good thing for Daniel Jones? Well, yes it is. Well, first off, getting out of that building, getting out of a losing culture and going somewhere to a team who is playoff bound, at least you'll get an idea of what a building needs to have. You can get back to understanding winning football and not being in a massive slump. And the other good thing about him going to Daniel Jones, going to the Vikings, aside from their weapons, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Jordan Addison, you got a good tight end. You got the running back over there, Aaron Jones, just killing it. Good offensive line. Defense can hold up. It's just a good football team. So it's a good position if Daniel Jones had to step in and start throwing the ball. The other great thing about Minnesota is you've got the head coach, Kevin O'Connell. I know this is a Wikipedia page. I'm sorry for the lack of professionalism. There he is, Kevin O'Connell. He has been the head coach before the Minnesota Vikings. This is his 3rd season. The first season they went 13-4. Second season they went 7-10. They did have some quarterback issues, I think, last season, and 9-2 currently. So very playoff bound this season. great coach, has done a lot with quarterbacks. Let's have a look at a couple of the quarterbacks who have been under his reign. First up, we'll go to Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, obviously the starting quarterback at the time of Kevin O'Connell joining the squad. How did they go? They made it to the postseason? I think so. I think they did. Either way, it says it right there, postseason, what we're talking about. So, 4,000 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown. Now, Kirk Cousins isn't known to be a big rushing man, and we can see that the touchdown that he got was a 1-yard rush. So, this stat isn't really something that we're going to look for at this particular quarterback. But 4,000 yards, 33-7. Now, let's go to the year that Kevin O'Connell came in. 4,500 yards, less touchdowns, and more interceptions. He did have an extra rush yard. And then we'll go to next year, 2023. And this was a little bit of a downer year. He did throw 18 touchdowns within, I don't know, that looks like that's 8 games. No rushing touchdowns. So a little bit of a slump in 2022, a bit of growing pains. Did make it to the playoffs. And then in 2023, Kirk did get injured, but he was kind of on pace to throw a shitload of touchdowns. And 2024, obviously, he is currently with the Atlanta Falcons, and he's already thrown 9 interceptions, and he's got negative rushing yardage. So a little bit of an improvement there with Kevin O'Connell, probably a little bit of growing pains. Now we'll go over to this guy, Joshua Dobbs. So Joshua Dobbs, the Pastronaut as they call him, currently with San Francisco. This guy's been bouncing around a whole lot of places. Now, as you can see here, he was traded to Minnesota last year on October the 31st. So we'll get to actually kind of have a look at how he went before and after right there. But let's just get a quick look at his 2022 season. His 2021 season, he never really got a good chance to be a starter, so we'll just have to go back to that 2023 season. Okay, so he was with the Arizona Cardinals for the first portion of the season, as you can see. How did he go? 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 0-0, 0-1, 2-2, 2-0. So he had 3 games where he was positive with the touchdown to turnovers. He had 2 games where it was even, and he had 1 where he was negative. And then there was obviously 2 games where he did absolutely nothing. Now, in terms of yardage, 132, 228. It looks like he's averaging around 200. And then we go up to Minnesota. Whoa, what is this score about? How's he going? Positive, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. 1 touchdown, no interceptions. 1-1. 4 ints against that Bears defense. That's a tough divisional game. And then it doesn't look like he played a complete match in that last one. Yardage was up, so he was able to complete more balls. As you can see by these numbers, it's fairly over 20, whereas everywhere else it's kind of dipping down into 15 and 7. The yardage here is all over the shop, while this one is much closer to 200. And while he did throw a few picks in this division, all the rest of the games look a lot cleaner from him. And now we go over to our man Sam Darnold, who has just been absolutely balling this season. Now, this guy started his career with the Jets. Really bad. Really bad. Can't remember. I think he did go to San Fran at some point, and we'll see that as we come up to a non-complete season. Look at this. This is all with the Jets. This is terrible. 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Go to 2021. Still with the Jets. Still throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. We go to 2022. And this is the season where he was traded to the 49ers in the offseason. Wins 4 out of the 6 games there. Has a positive touchdown interception ratio. Rushes for a couple of touchdowns. And then we get to 2023. Can't remember who he played for in 2023, actually. Let me look that up real quick. I'm pretty sure it was still the Niners. Rid of that Wiki. Yeah, Wiki. All right, what do we got? Whoa. All right, so yeah, 2023, he was still with the San Francisco 49ers. Look at this season. That's nice. Only 2 touchdowns to 1 interception. He only stepped in for a few games, and the one game that he did step into, they did lose 21-20. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest season. It looked like he didn't play complete games at all. Now we go over to this year with Kevin O'Connell. He's absolutely balling, already at 2,700 yardage, 21-10 touchdowns. So we've got a 2-to-1 ratio there, which is pretty standard across the board. That's the benchmark you're looking for, and then you want to move up from there. You want to start securing the ball. Now, in terms of yardage, almost always over 200. Like, this is a big jump that we see from Sam Darnold, especially from the Giants going into the Niners, going into Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. So that's a huge jump. And then we take a look at Daniel Jones this season. That's not good. Last season wasn't complete. Let's go to 2021. Man, this guy can do with some improvement. I think moving to Minnesota is probably the best thing. I don't know if they hold on to him for after the offseason, since they do have JJ McCarthy right now trying to get himself back healthy. But yeah, this is a good move, I think, for both teams, actually. He's only $375,000 for the rest of the year. You get a compensatory pick as well. If anything happens to Sam Darnold, at least you've got somebody who has starting quarterback experience in the NFL, like a lot of it. And then obviously the system's going to help, the weapons are going to help. It's just he's just in a winning culture building now, so it's going to be a good move for them. It's going to be a good move for the Vikings. All right, let's get on to the next thing. So it was Thanksgiving just now. There were 3 games. We can go up here and have a look at those 3 games. So first up, we had Detroit beating Chicago 23-20, just a tight divisional game. Now, Lions did suffer some injuries in that game, which bodes well for the Packers. I think it maybe is their next opponent. We'll have a quick look at that. In that playoff race, who they play next? They do play the Lions next. Lovely. So in this game, Detroit versus Chicago. Like I said, a few injuries. Let's go over to this page because we do have some video on it. So we'll start off with Josh Pascal, defensive line player. Looks like he's hurt his knee on this play as we kind of just watch him go. He stumbles, he falls, and then Caleb I think he completes the pass, gets pushed into his players. It's just kind of a funny clip to watch right here. Oh shit, we don't want that. Just kind of a funny clip to watch. This guy's just chasing him down. Big man starts stumbling, falls over himself. It's not good that he injures himself. And then this flop by Caleb's kind of hilarious. All right, so that's don't know. I'll have to look up and see how long this guy's going to be out. There was another injury. Levi Owazurike, his left knee. He's another D lineman. We'll watch it here, number 81. Takes a couple of stents, and then you see he steps on it there, and something happens. He can't complete the play. Obviously, these diagnoses in the tweet here are just an assumption. This guy is not the actual coach. Jimmy Lau, MD. He is not the doctor for the Lions, but he's the doctor for the Lions podcast, I believe. Maybe not an official one, but he knows what he's talking about when he looks at this shit. All right, next up we have Malcolm Rodriguez, right knee. Malcolm Rodriguez he's the linebacker. This one does look like an ACL. We see him come up here, plant that foot right there, faced away from the direction he wants to go, and then he goes to push off. We talked about this on the channel before. Boom. No good. He can't continue to play. You can see he is struggling there. Once he lands back on that right foot. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. In my mind, from all the ACLs that I've seen, boom, right there. And then let's see him recover. No, he just can't handle it. There's very possibly an ACL. Good call by Jimmy Lau there. That means he's out for the season. Next up, we got CB cornerback Emmanuel Mosley. I think just reading this one, he was inactive for the game, so he didn't play in this game. Looks like he was tweaking something in pre-game, and it just didn't feel good. So keep an eye out for this Lions team, who would really like to win next week against the Divisional Packers. Keep that two-win spread against the Vikings, like, in charge. But this does bode well for the Packers. Like I said, they are currently third in the NFC North in playoff position, especially getting that win today. And they do need to win their divisional games because they've lost their first game to Minnesota. They lost their first game to Detroit, and those were both in Lambeau. So they want to go in there and smack these teams in the mouth. Next up, we had Giants versus Dallas. This was a bit of a shit show game, like it was always going to be. Cooper Rush throwing for 195 yards and 1 touchdown. Drew Lock, I'm not the biggest fan of Drew Lock. I would have probably stayed with DeVito. But, you know, he kept it close. 178 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception there. And I think that interception actually went for a pick 6. Yep. Interception is 23 yards and 1 touchdown. I remember watching that. Dallas has done pretty good against their division rivals in the last couple of games. I think they beat Washington maybe last week. Special teams really showed up big there, and I think defense as well. Big thing that you have to look at moving forward for the rest of the season with this Dallas Cowboys defense is that Micah Parsons is back in and healthy. Him being out really, really hurt the defense, but he's back. They got to win. He played huge. Let's check it out. Totals: 1.5 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 3 total tackles, and 1 solo tackle. Making an impact on the game right there. But let's go over to the game that I actually got to watch. Green Bay versus Miami. This was a great game to watch if you're a Green Bay fan. Miami coming up into Lambeau to play in the cold weather. I think it was maybe 20 something degrees Fahrenheit, so it's fairly cold. Miami has lost. I think they're 0-7 now in games below like 24 degrees Celsius. 24 degrees Fahrenheit. It'd be pretty normal to play 23 degrees Celsius, I'll tell you that. But yeah, Dolphins going into cold weather, losing another game, going 5-6. This is not great for them because the AFC is tight. They need to continue to win out from here on to make it into the playoffs. Let's have a quick look at their schedule. What do they got ahead of them? They've got New York next week. They go to Houston the week after that. Then they verse San Fran. Got to play Cleveland. Got to play New York again. They should get both wins against New York. That's divisional as well. They could win against Houston. Houston's also in a bit of a rocky patch right now, so that might be a bit of an even game. And then we've got San Francisco going in. Brock Purdy should hopefully be back. I don't think he's out for the season with the shoulder. Might be back this week. And then we got a Cleveland team who is kind of up and down with Jameis, but they're generally trending upwards. Be interesting to see what they do in the off season. They should just find when the best time to cut Deshaun Watson is, and just cut him. He's been no good for them. And then if we go over to the standings here for Miami, right now, second in their division. Buffalo basically owns it, but in the conference, they are just sitting outside of a playoff spot. Now, they are 2 losses down, considering they made that loss today. Indianapolis Colts are right ahead of them, and the Cincinnati Bengals are also sitting on 7 losses. So the playoff spots here are kind of up in the air, especially with how the Houston Texans have been kind of playing. Hopefully they'll finish the season strong. Denver is basically on an upward trend, and so are the Chargers. So uphill battle for the Dolphins right here. Would not be surprised if they miss the playoffs. Just shy of like a win or 2. But this game was pretty good. Green Bay started out really hot, ending the first half 24-3, and then the game obviously slowed down. The Miami Dolphins, in the kind of late part of the game, they kind of figured that they needed to throw the ball over the middle. There was a highlight within the game where they showed how the Green Bay defense was passing off Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and it was being executed like beautifully. Like balls were not going their way. A lot of pass breakups. It was really good football on the Green Bay offense side, and you can see here 28 passes to 25 rushes. It was a very balanced game. Whereas being behind, obviously Miami had to throw the ball more. 45 passes, 14 rushes, only 39 rush yards as well. So that really doesn't help out. Basically means you got to throw the ball. Tua did throw for 357 yards though, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. One big thing I did see here, Miami was giving up a goddamn ton of penalties though. Gave up 75 yards in penalties. Green Bay breaking that 40-yard mark that we don't like to see. We like to see the penalties under 40 yards. Another thing to note about this, sorry to backtrack here, but this game here, this New York Giants versus Dallas. New York, you can't be giving up 98 penalty yardage, and there was more on the defense that was just helping out Dallas here. As you can see, they got 4 first downs from penalties, so you're definitely not going to win the game if you're giving up that many penalties. 13 offensive penalties is fucking crazy. 10 is pretty huge here for the Dolphins. It was a bit of a sloppy game. They were getting the ball thrown all over them. They had so many injuries to their secondary. They're looking really kind of rough right now in the secondary. Jalen Ramsey is still healthy. It's good to see. But if this has been updated, cornerback out, questionable, out. Right cornerback, Jalen Ramsey, Storm Duck, Siran Neal. So basically, they're on their last legs with their cornerbacks. A couple of them left the game as well. Oh, you hate to see it, especially with this final stretch. They need to be strong. Like I said, I don't see them going to the playoffs, especially with this the schedule and these couple of teams that are holding off right here. Doesn't look very good. But for Green Bay, playoff hopes still very much in view. When we look at the standings, they're in the toughest division in football right now, the NFC North. Detroit Lions 11-1, Minnesota 9-2, Packers now 9-3, and then we go to the standings in the conference. All 3 of them are going to the playoffs. Right down here. They are currently in the top 4 seeds of the whole NFC, so that's kind of bonkers. Gotta love to see it. Strength in the north, strength in the cold, and as we get into wintertime football, these teams are just going to perform even harder. The Bears were in contention towards the start of the season, had a slump, fired their OC, and then they're kind of on the way back. They've given the division just absolute hell in the last 3 games, coming away with 2 losses from blocked field goals, and then taking Detroit to a 1 field goal loss. So unfortunate for them, but the future's bright in Chicago. This was a really good game to watch. I would go back and watch it if you had the option. But yeah, not much to say, honestly. I really wanted to talk about Kevin O'Connell and Daniel Jones moving over there. I wanted to talk about the penalties that were in the Dallas versus Giants game and the injuries to the Lions. The NFC North right now, as I've said again, is absolutely freaking blasting. The Packers, who do they have to play for the rest of the season? What is his schedule? Right here. So next week they have the Lions. Probably the best time for them to play the Lions. They do need to go into Detroit to play them. But like I said, and as we covered earlier, Detroit Lions have some severe injuries on their defensive side. Hopefully that bodes well for the Pack. Then they have to go into Seattle, who are in their own division, who is extremely tight. We'll go back to the standings. Right down here, they're ahead. This division is... The difference in this division is just one win. So everybody here is kind of doing well. San Francisco's on a little bit of a downtrend. I know they got Christian McCaffrey back. Rams are moving upwards. Cardinals have been steady all season. Just had a tough schedule, I guess. And then Seattle Seahawks are looking to go back into an upward trend now that DK Metcalf is back. So this is going to be a tough game. Seattle does not want to lose that game. Versus New Orleans in Week 16, which they get to host. I believe Rizzler. The Rizzler is going to still be coaching. We'll see how he goes over the next 2 weeks. I'm kind of expecting an upward trend with the New Orleans Saints with Rizzler at the helm, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if he secures the starting job next year as well. If he wants it, you definitely don't get rid of the Rizzler. He was a massive part in changing the rule for the dynamic kickoff as well. So the dude fucking knows football. They got a bye week this week, so they get a chance to recuperate their efforts. I don't know why I'm looking at their schedule right now, but since the Rizzler, they've had 2 wins. Usually you do get that bump for the interim head coach, but usually you don't get that bump for the next game, and they kind of took it to Cleveland. So it'd be interesting to see how the New Orleans Saints are going to go. They do have a chance to take their division as well. Their schedule does not look as easy as Tampa Bay's. They got some pretty tough games in there. Washington, Green Bay, Los Angeles coming up. So we'll see how they go. And then for the rest of the Packers schedule, you have to go into Minnesota and win. You really need that record, the divisional record. And then the final game of the season, you get to host Chicago in Green Bay. We'll see how that goes. You want them to win out. If they're going to try and take the division, Detroit's got to have some real problems. Minnesota, they've got to win both against Detroit and Minnesota to force those losses on. They need to win out every single game. And obviously it's very important that they do beat Chicago as well, so that they can move their divisional record to 4-2, considering they beat Detroit and Minnesota, which will put them in a really great spot to hopefully take the division. Either way, it's very likely that they go into the playoffs. If we look over here, as we've been doing very often on the channel, this is a very, very tight race. Woo! This is a very, very tight race. We have in the playoff, let me just reset this so that we can see the standings. Nah, it's fucking gone now. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right there is the cutoff point. And then you've got a team, Arizona Cardinals, who basically have the same record as the Atlanta Falcons, but they can't make it through because the Atlanta Falcons are on the top of their division. So that's how tight the race actually is within the NFC. As you can see here, there's a 2-game buffer in the AFC for that playoff hunt. But everybody in the NFC needs to keep their buttholes tight because it's going to be a ride to the finish. And we have our first team mathematically eliminated. The New York Giants are getting ready to plan their holidays, I guess. 6 weeks out? 5 weeks out from the season, they get to start planning their holidays. Lovely. Lovely jubbly. Hopefully they can figure out the head office situation. They're going to get an amazing, probably first pick in the draft this year, so it's going to be a quarterback for sure. I think a couple of Giants fans are looking at hopefully Deion Sanders' son. Can't remember his name right now, but he is kind of rolling with the team that he's with right now. I can't remember what the team is. They're black and gold, and I think they got a Buffalo as their guy. So anyway, like I said, I got to keep it short today. That was Thanksgiving. It was pretty sweet. Jordan Love getting the turkey. Dallas Cowboys getting the turkey. Lions getting the turkey. Jordan Love actually got the MVP of the game today. Really good to see. Got his turkey leg, which he didn't get last year. So he got to eat 2 turkey legs today. Really good to see. I'm just gonna round out the show. I'm just gonna end it up right there. I got shit to do. But I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be having our picks and our bets for Sunday football. Keep an eye out. Enjoy your night. And stay strong. I don't know what that's about. But peace out.